Hey, so this is an update for the special council meeting from October 1st. This one kind of snuck up on us like a lot of the other ones do, but if you were paying attention, you would have seen the advertisement in the paper, and if you check the Township of Uxbridge website for the council meeting schedules on a regular basis, you might have caught it as well. So I was there just to see what was going to happen. One thing that caught my eye in the agenda was the building of a $260,000 shed at the Goodwood Community Center. And I thought, $260,000 for a shed? That's a little bit extreme. This better be a great shed. So I went back and found the tender information just to see what kind of structure they were building. And turns out that it's a 30 by 34 structure, 30 foot by 34 foot structure. That's more like a garage than a shed. It'll be attached to the existing community center and will be funded from the sale of the old Lions Hall in Goodwood. I asked what it was going to be used for storing things, like what kind of things were going to be stored there. And I was advised that they needed storage for the stuff from the old Lions Hall that was generally stored there, boards for the ice rink, tables and chairs for the Goodwood Hall that are currently taking up space in the boardroom, that sort of thing. So, an addition of this size is probably warranted. And the good thing is that it will be funded by the sale of an existing building. So, it's not really tax dollars, but sort of is, because it could be directed somewhere else if it wasn't really necessary. In addition to that, there were a few points of correspondence just about asking permission to place signs on township property for the Christmas home tour held by the Rotary Club. Uxbridge Secondary School requests to use council chambers and the scribes room to host Uxbridge Secondary School's model United Nations team for one day. The First Uxbridge Trip Unit and We Uxbridge. This is a new sort of volunteer charity-based group that's trying to get started up in town. And if you follow on a couple of groups on Facebook, there was some sort of like vandalism done to the park in Quaker Common playground. There was a bunch of smashed bottles and broken glass all through the sand at the playground. And this group jumped into action and got it cleaned up very quickly the very next morning before the town even had a chance to get to it. So kudos to them for acting quickly and making sure that that playground was safe for the kids again. So they're just asking the use of a township meeting room to host their monthly meetings, not necessarily at the town offices, but could be anywhere that the town has access to. And this was referred back to staff to find them a suitable location, and was, for loss of words, was sort of approved by council. They felt it was necessary or at least warranted to try and support them when they are making great effort to support us. Foxbridge Golf Club, regarding the clubhouse development charge credit. When they built the new scrambles, there was a development charge associated with that, just like there would be for any new building. They should have gotten a credit back at some point because they were replacing an existing building, but of course with red tape, as always, there are catches to that. And they were told at some point that there was a time limit on it, and the credit would only be approved if the existing scrambles restaurant was demolished before they built the new one, which, you know, if you're in business, is kind of crazy. You want to keep serving your customers while you're building a new facility. And the development charges equal to the square footage of the old buildings they replaced is in the neighborhood of about $25,000. So there was a note made basically to amend the rules on that so that the same situation doesn't occur in the future, because this happens, you know, on a fairly regular basis where a new building is being built to replace an old building, and they can't demolish the old one until the new one's built. So hopefully that will be done sooner rather than later, and nobody has to deal with that sort of catch-22 again. There were a few other things. The servicing allocation for a long-term care facility. In the past few weeks at a council meeting, I can't remember exactly which one, there was allocation set aside for 150 units in the sewage capacity for a future long-term care facility. They were just asking for that to be amended to 160 because apparently that is the magic number for a facility of that type. There were a few bylaws passed. Some of note were the town entering into a lease agreement with Brennan Paving with respect to the use of the old fire hall during the Brock Street culvert construction. I'm assuming that's just to store their equipment and that sort of thing during the construction. A few others were entering into a right of first refusal agreement with the Durham District School Board in respect to the purchase of the lands, which is the arena ball diamond. I asked for some clarification on that because to me it sort of sounded like the ball diamond wasn't actually purchased, and when we got around to selling it, the school board had a first right of refusal to purchase it. It was actually sort of the opposite. The school board has purchased it. The first right of refusal agreement is put in place so that if the school board decides to sell it in the future, in case they don't need it or something like that, and they just want to liquidate, the town actually has the first right of refusal to purchase it back before they look at selling it to anybody else. So that's kind of a good thing. We can make sure that if the school board doesn't hang on to it, that it at least lands back in our hands if we want to at that time. There was another one passed for the patrolling of snow and ice accumulation policy. This is in regards to the shoveling of sidewalks or clearing of sidewalks in the wintertime. So this won't be using any additional staff. Essentially shouldn't cost us any more money, but it will use the existing public works staff to patrol a sample area when there is a snowfall, and based on that sample area they can determine if they need to patrol more or if they need to start handing out warnings or tickets or whatever. There was another one just put in place to erect a four-way stop sign at the 4th Concession and Wag Road. And this has to do with some other business. There was a report put forth, or a recommendation put forth, that a four-way stop be erected here because there's a gravel pit in the area. And when it changed ownership, the traffic volume changed and the schedules changed just due to increased productivity. So they were having a lot of issues and complaints with traffic and the gravel trucks staging in a queue along the side of the road, which was causing some issues with traffic and safety. So they've decided to put up a four-way stop there. They'll also be changing the way the trucks queue. They'll now be queuing in the pit instead of on the side of the road. And they're going to be putting no stopping signs along the side of the road. And Councillor Pamela Beach has also asked for signs in the area asking for no engine brakes as well, because Mayor Malloy alluded to the fact that you should be careful what you ask for. Now that there is a four-way stop there, there is going to be a little more truck noise from the trucks stopping and starting back up again. So hopefully that will be worth the added benefit of safety when it is all implemented. I have a very needy puppy at the moment. What else was there? There was also some discussion about a meeting that was held with the region in terms of some traffic studies on regional roads. There were a few questions asked about various intersections and whether some changes could be made. One was to review the excessive wait times being experienced by some residents at the Toronto Street South and Elgin Park Drive traffic control signal. They monitored the area with closed circuit cameras and decided that it was in line with the wait times at other traffic signals in the area, and decided that there was no changes that needed to be made. To review the feasibility of installing a southbound to eastbound left turn advance green arrow at the Toronto Street South and Elgin Park Drive traffic control signal. They decided that there wasn't enough traffic volume and that most people were making it through the light in one or two changes, and decided no changes needed to be made there. Request to install an advanced left turn phase in the northbound direction at the Toronto Street and Brock Street intersection. They decided that that was not required at this time either. They made some signal timing adjustments on Brock Street, and that improved the traffic flow enough that they were satisfied with that. The request to remove the westbound advanced left turn phase at Toronto Street and Brock Street. They undertook a computer simulation modeling the intersection at Toronto and Brock Street to predict the impacts of removing the existing left turn lane. They decided that it was not desirable and are not making any changes. Request for additional improvements northbound on Regional Road 1 approaching the new all-way stop in the community of Eudora to alert non-local drivers to the change. They have already implemented the stop ahead line stencil that was put in place August 17th, and that is all they are intending to do there. Request for additional measure on Regional Road 21 approaching Goodwood in the vicinity of Stone's Throw east of the existing radar speed feedback sign. They're recommending an introduction of a 350 meter long transition zone of 60 kilometers an hour from the 50 kilometer an hour begin sign to the intersection of Stone's Throw. So they're just going to make a little bit more gradual transition into the area, and hopefully that will address the speed issues. There was also a request to consider speed bump depression as used in other jurisdictions. Regional policy dictates that traffic calming devices are not installed on regional roads. So they will not be implementing anything like that. I'm wondering if given the issues with traffic and speed, that policy should maybe be revisited. Request for an oversized stop sign on Sanford Road and Brock Road. The response to this request, the region has installed an oversized stop sign as of July 10th, so with a flashing red beacon. So hopefully that will help with that one. And on Regional Road 8 from Uxbridge to Port Perry, it was requested to advise what the timing of the paved shoulder was to connect the missing gaps for cyclists. They will be introducing the paved shoulders for cyclists as part of future resurfacing projects, but did not give a timeline. And then the request for Dragon's Teeth pavement marking in the community of Zephyr. So if you don't know what the Dragon's Teeth markings are, they're just like the zigzag lines that look like dragon's teeth painted on the road, just to sort of alert you of, a condition coming up. So they are planning on introducing the zebra markings as part of a 2020 road resurfacing project. So it'll be a couple more years before we see that, and that is to go in the location on Regional Road 13, about 450 meters east of Concession Road 3. So hopefully all of those will solve the issues that they were meant to deal with. And I'll leave you with some news that some of you may be aware of already. The meeting did start with condolences offered to the family of Alex Hartman, who was the head of the Uxbridge Library. She passed away suddenly on the weekend, and it was very unexpected, and the condolences were passed along to her family, her friends, and her coworkers. And the Uxbridge Library will definitely have a large hole left in it. She did amazing work. She was great for the Uxbridge Library. And in the meantime, because the council is in the position where they can't really fill the position until new council is in, the Uxbridge CAO, Ingrid Svelnes, will be taking over the position in the interim. So I'll leave you with that, and we'll see you again at the next update.